Turkey or was not Istanbul only, it was an attack towards whole humanity, and I'd like to express my condolences. Yes, yesterday I did the required explanations, and I wanted to come today in person to visit those injured, and I got direct information at the attack site, and those who are in charge of the security of Istanbul, I got a comprehensive briefing. I'd like to express that the concept of terror is independent of the cities and countries. It threatens all humanity everywhere. So this should not be taken as an attack to only Istanbul, but this concerns all the cities around the world, in Paris, in London, in New York, in Madrid. The terrorist attacks show that this is a challenge to whole humanity. And yesterday, in such an attack, unfortunately, 10 foreign nationals, our guests, lost their lives, and there were 15 injured. I visited them today with the German Minister of Internal Affairs, and I conveyed them that the 78 million Turkish citizens are treating them as guests, and 6 people are in hospitals as of the moment, and they are being taken care of with great sensitivity. After all that painful event, those who are injured and all the sides of this attack, and specifically the health personnel, must be appreciated, and I thank them with their professional treatment. And just like the Ministry of Justice, the National Police, they took precautions. So we have a mechanism. It shows that we have a mechanism which works efficiently and rapidly. So all the health personnel, all the security officers, and all who took the necessary measures, I'd like to thank and congratulate them. And before and after, if there were any mistakes, which I asked each and every detail in this just a security briefing, and I gave the directions to make Istanbul a city of peace. And after yesterday, we identified the identity of the attacker, the perpetrator. We had 4 other detained today, and we also identified how the perpetrator entered Turkey and his contacts and the background of the attack. And this shows that there might be influential actors behind the scenes. So we identified the connection of the perpetrator with Daesh, and it is such a terrorist organization which uses camouflaged organizations as well. So, just like in Suruç, in Ankara, in Istanbul, a very lowly attack was made, and every measure that should be taken, we will. And we will do this in a systematic way. And beyond that, those who are behind these terrorist organizations, who are the real actors, we are having an intense work on that to identify those who are behind this terrorist organization. And whoever is using this terrorist organization against Turkey, we want to identify them as well. So whoever is relevant in this attack. We will take every necessary measures, and we have an open determination on this, and we'll take necessary measures. And I said today, as I said today, 4 other people were detained today, and the work will continue in an efficient way. So Istanbul is not just the center for Turkey, but it's the center for the whole world, and it's the rising star of Afro-Eurasia. It's a rising city, and we want the city to be a city of peace, and we discussed the necessary measures to be taken. It's not just about it's not just against the terrorism, but it's also about the fight against the organized crime, against the narcotics, against the drug trade. So it's our duty to make the city a city of peace. So when we look around, we see a circle of fire, and cities like Damascus, Baghdad, Beirut, there are significant issues and some economic problems in some major cities of Europe. Istanbul is showing a development, and we were in the construction site of the largest suspension bridge in the world, and we will have the third airport in the city, and this is also a financial center and also a city where United Nations gathers together frequently. So it's a place of attraction for the whole world. So some people might just be targeting to ruin Istanbul's positive image, and those who are the citizens who live in Istanbul, it's our duty to protect them and to make the city a city of peace. Every Istanbulite, and I'd like to express that I'm in love with this city, street by street, and it's a joint task for us to protect this city. So the conscience of being a citizen, being an Istanbulite, we will succeed in our effort to fight against these problems and make this city a city of peace, a sustainable peace. Because of the circle of fire around us, many Istanbul is like a city of hope for many people from around Middle East, Caucasia, or Balkans. So they come to Turkey, they want to settle down in Istanbul, they want to be an Istanbulite. Some of them just want to find a job, and they want to get the benefit out of Turkish rising economy of Turkey. And Istanbul is a door of hope for a lot of people to reach. So all the necessary regulations of security in Turkey, not just for its citizens in Istanbul, not just for its citizens. Istanbul hosts 12 million tourists a year. So there is a big flow of human in the city. So we will take every necessary measure. And we discussed in a detailed fashion with the security officers, security personnel, in the fight against terrorism and in critical processes, how to intervene in a more efficient way, the measures of intelligence, and we just laid them on the table. And our priority is providing a security in Istanbul. And terrorism is threatening Istanbul just like many other major cities in the world. And this happened in the past as well, but we have a security force which prevented a lot of terrorist attacks that our society does not even know. Specifically in the fight against drug trade, I'd like to express my gratitude, and I wanted them to start an efficient fight, to go on with an efficient fight against the drug trade, against terrorism, and whatever necessary measure is to be taken, they will be taken. In this regard, I pointed them, I gave them directions, and I'd like to underline that in the last 15 years, Istanbul took great steps. It's a global city, and every attack will be countered and, of course, prevented in the first place. We have this capacity to do so. So no one should try to disseminate an image that Istanbul is not a safe city. Some international press organizations we have a sensitivity. We have a sensitivity to stop broadcasting the terrorist event, and Istanbul is a safe city. It's a safe harbor with all its riches of culture and history, and those who want to see Turkish hospitality. Istanbul is a safe and secure city, a peaceful city. So we have the capacity and the instruments to keep it that way. And we work around the clock to continue that way. Just a while ago, and that was a wise move. That was a tourist guide, Shatrul. I was with her, and we were in the same school at the same time at high school. And she showed a wise attitude, and she showed a great hospitality. And until the ambulances and security forces arrived in the area, so she kind of spent a great deal of effort in this regard, and I'd like to thank her because of that. It was important at those critical times. And again, I'd like to express my condolences to those who lost their lives. We received a lot of condolences. We met with, I spoke with Mr. Tuski, and I will also speak with Mr. Ban Ki-moon. And in this framework, I'd like to express my gratitude, and I'd like to thank those international leaders. This is a common issue. This is a common issue for all humanity, regardless of any sectarian or otherwise orientation. We have to stand we have to stand together shoulder by shoulder. And just like I said to Chancellor Merkel yesterday, all the hosts in Turkey, all the visitors to Turkey, they have been our close friends. And just like the German Minister of Internal Affairs, Maizière, we see our friends in Germany, and we'd like to invite them to Istanbul as a common human heritage. Turkey is safe. Istanbul is safe. Inshallah, in the coming months and years, we will host millions of tourists. Now, a lot of speculation comes to the agenda of public after such events. Any unofficial evaluation should not be taken seriously, because psychological manipulations take place after such events in such days. So a news is produced and an image is created, and outside myself and those who are in charge, the officers in charge, please do not take the other news seriously. We identified that person, the perpetrator, very quickly, because we have an experienced intelligence and security officers. And I can't say that with all its details, that was an exploded body, and we using his nails, we processed it very fastly and identified his identity. And this also shows a great efficiency, that everyone who enters Turkey is being monitored and recorded visually. So fingerprints and the other remainings are put together to get a result. This person was not, we were not following this person, our security officer were not following this person. He was a refugee. He entered Turkey as a refugee. However, after this attack, we identified his connections, and there might be those outside Daesh. There might be those other connections outside Daesh with that perpetrator. And we identified some connections. So the perpetrator was not being followed by our security officers. So it's not also true that he was detained and then released. So he was not detained in the first place. These questions can be asked after such events, but after in such a huge metropole with a huge human inflow, even after all the measures needed, we might still have some missing points. So these could happen. In terms of additional measures, Turkey is not under threat of a unidimensional terrorism. There is Daesh, unfortunately, in Ankara and now in Istanbul. And we also have PKK terrorism, which wants to shed blood in different cities of Turkey, in Silopi and Cizre, in Istanbul, in many other cities. They want to create a chaos. They are looking for every opportunity to do so. And on the streets of Istanbul, they pose some funerals, organizations like DHKP and some other terrorist organizations. Our security officers are spending great effort to prevent that. Turkey is not an island. We are not an isolated country. So we're not in Scandinavia, and we're not an island on Pacific Sea. We are in the central stage of a geography which is boiling with different events. So you cannot isolate Turkey, and once you open up to the world, the negative elements could come into the country as well as the positive elements. So what should be done is that a more effective and efficient security processes should be done, and maybe a legal regulation should be made if necessary, and we will take visible security precautions without harming the natural flow of life. Just like in Paris, they started taking more visible security measures that, for example, we saw soldiers on the streets of Paris. I'm not saying that we will do the same in Turkey, but some measures that we take in Cizre and in Slopi that we take today in Turkey, they forget that the French government invited the military to the streets of Paris. And just like that, after some ethnic conflicts in the United States, they also implemented curfew, but this was not regarded as an anti-democratic practice, but they find our practices anti-democratic. I'd like to express openly that in many cities of Turkey, in Istanbul, the security of our people, whatever necessary measures are necessary to be taken within the boundaries of democracy, we will take. More visible, more efficient, we will take measures. So, just a while ago, a short while ago, with district by district, I'd like to, I'm not going to mention their names, but I took a briefing about the sensitive spots in different districts, and extra security measures will be taken where the population goes, where the people go in an intense way. Wherever there's an intense population, we will take more necessary measures. But the most important security measure is the one that our people will take. In the context of keeping Istanbul as a safe city, I'd like to ask the citizens of Turkey to cooperate with the police and security officers when they hear something, when they have any information to share. So someone could just be planning to put Turkey in a circle of fire. We will not go into the circle of fire. We will put water onto that fire, and we will keep our country outside this circle of fire. And whatever additional measures are necessary, we will take them. We visited the injured German visitors together with the German Minister of Internal Affairs, and I spoke with Chancellor Merkel yesterday. We overviewed what we will do together with the German government, and the Minister of Internal Affairs visited Turkey today, and we visited the hospital together. And I was proud that was an old guest, that was an old tourist, old visitor. He said, we experienced a negative event, but we also we were treated with great care. We just saw the ambulances, we were taken to the hospitals very quickly, and the doctors, nurses, they were just around us around the clock, and we were never left alone. And such a positive remark from a tourist, hearing something like that, I'd like to express my gratitude to personnel of health and the security. So it's not just about this German patient, the other people also made us feel like that. And in this framework, the German Minister of Internal Affairs conveyed Chancellor Merkel's goodwill, and the Mr. Minister also thanked the health personnel and the security officers, the doctors and the police. And if some people wanted to deliver a message that Turkey is not safe for Germans, we are saying just the opposite. Turkey is a safe country. Turkey is a friendly country to Germany, and he said the same thing to his own public. And while on our visits to hospitals, to our and he said, I delivered this message here. I'll keep delivering this message in Germany as well. In February, in January, I will be in Germany with for a joint meeting, intergovernmental meeting between the Turkish and German governments, and I will be visiting Germany, and I will repeat the same message, that this event did not target the German tourists specifically. It attacked Istanbul, it attacked Turkey. It could have been another group, but in any way, once again, I'd like to express my condolences to those who lost their lives. And I appreciate the close cooperation with the German government, and Chancellor Merkel showed a great amount of trust. The trust was mutual, and as I said to the German patients, I told them, you were German citizens until now. You are now, from now on, you are also Turkish citizens. So I'd like you to feel at home here, and we are ready to provide any necessary service, including the citizenship of Turkey. And Mr. Minister said, you're speaking from your heart. And I said, yes, this is the source of our culture. Whoever visits our home, they are the partners, on our tables, and we see them in the same fashion to those who have visited our home and our country. And whoever enters Turkey will be safe. And if any harm comes to anyone visiting Turkey, we will take necessary measures, and we will embrace that person with a positive and with a warm welcome. And the situation of a patient is critical, by the way. So she lost her husband, unfortunately, and she's in intensive care. And I'd like to ask our citizens to pray for the well-being of that patient. So they are a member of the family for us. So I express these feelings to the patients as well. This is a difficult process, and with its humanitarian dimension, it sets an example to, it set exemplary attitudes to all of us. And whoever comes to the city will enjoy the opportunities of the city. And thank you. Any other question? Okay. I can have more questions. In such a historical place, it's your right to ask questions. This is an attack on Turkey, against Turkey. After Suruç attack, we had a counterattack to the front of Daesh, and after Ankara attack, we also carried out some operations. So after this, we might take some necessary measures. So we will respond to this attack at the right time, in the right way. So there is also a duty for the countries for those who are not carrying out operations against Daesh, because some air forces, some external air forces are not carrying out operations on Daesh, And instead of bombing schools in Aleppo and in Idlib and the civilian Turkomans in Bayırbucak, they better go attack the Daesh fronts, Daesh militants. So, and I'd like to say very openly, I'm talking about the Russian air forces, and they're attacking the civilians. So, as a part of an international coalition, Turkey will, the Turkey's operations as a part of international alliance should not be prevented. There is like a barrier now. The operations of Air Force are being restricted. Some countries are preventing that. Either they destroy Daesh or they let us destroy Daesh. So they should not pose as that they are fighting against Daesh, but they are actually attacking the civilians and opposition and opening space for Daesh. So this is why we will have the connections of this perpetrator. Some elements of Daesh getting a support from the regime. So the opposition in Syria started fighting against Daesh, and the regime in Syria they cut a deal with Daesh, and they started mobilizing some Daesh elements to the north of Syria. We see dirty cooperations in Syria today. The Syrian regime is in cooperation with Daesh against the opposition in Syria, and Daesh is cooperating with the Syrian regime, and so that they found a way that they say that the opposition in Syria is munafiq, and the Daesh is fighting against them. PYD is fighting with the opposition as well. The regime is fighting with the opposition as well. The Russian Air Force, Hezbollah, Iran, elements of Iran is fighting against the opposition, because what matters here is that they want to destroy the opposition in Syria in the field, and they want to have just Daesh in the field, and they will present Syrian regime as the better than nothing. So Turkey fought against Daesh, and we are planning operations against Daesh in the Syrian airfield, and they are being prevented by some countries. So our fight against is being prevented by some countries. So we should take our sides very clearly. We should identify who is with Daesh and who's against it. Those who let Daesh work, and they are putting major cities of the world under threat, but they're also blaming Turkey. I'd like to express very openly here, every attack on Turkey will be responded at the right time, in the right way, and we will also expect everyone to be sincere just like us. Thank you very much.